Jeff, welcome to
Hey.
Chamber Chat.
Thank you for having me.
Having you. Tell us who you are and who you represent.
Jeff Barber. I'm the Library Director and CEO here at Regina Public Library.
And how long have you been with the library, Jeff?
Oh, I have been at I have been at the library for a little over 20 years
20 years in Regina here.
in Regina. Yes,
So you're a Saskatchewan boy, though, right? Correct? Yeah.
I am. I've kind of lived. Yeah, I went to grad school in Alberta for a very short time.
Yeah.
But otherwise, Saskatchewan my whole life.
And so how does one become the CEO of a library? Like, is there
Oh.
training and or just good old experience?
Yeah, ultimately a combination of both. So,
Yeah.
as a librarian,
Yeah.
you do a graduate degree in library science,
Right.
and then in terms of coming here, yes, I've been here for 20 years, and I was about 15 years into my career at that point. So yes, experience and education.
And luckily, I've known you for quite a few years now, and
Indeed.
a lot of people in our city don't understand how big the library is. Tell us about the breadth of the organization.
RPL is, we have Central Library, of course,
Right.
and 8 locations. We have about 230 employees,
Wow.
full-time and part-time,
Amazing.
and have been in Regina since 1909 we first opened our doors.
Yeah, so it's a institution that's been part of the fabric of the city for quite some time.
It has, since the very beginning, really.
So there's people out there that probably think, hey, why do we need libraries? But you can tell them differently because they are being utilized, are they not?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
and how. I think it's one of those things that you hear, and I guess from someone who's in the library all the time, I
Right.
think, I don't understand how,
Yeah.
how you wouldn't see that. But yes, if you're not necessarily someone who regularly comes in, you may not know. We do have, in 2023,
Yeah.
we had 1.3 million visits to a
Wow.
public library in Regina. We circulated 1.65 million items, and ultimately, and even more if you count digital. But in
Right.
terms of physical visits, people are using libraries. They're still reading books, lots
Yeah.
of books. Also, though, programs. We have over 100,000 people taking advantage of programs at the library. And we, of course, have a film theater. We have the Dunlop Art Gallery as
Yes.
a part of the library. So it's a broad array of things that people can take advantage of in their community that are ultimately and legislatively free of charge.
Free of charge. And it's more, as you say, it's more than just books. I mean, you still can get the hard copy books, but you can get
You
digital
absolutely
books,
can.
right? But I'm interested in the programs. And so what are some of your most popular programs and why are they important?
They are, some of our most popular, as you might imagine, in public libraries forever have been that place for children's programs, for early literacy
Right.
and early learning for children. Also, of course, here at Regina Public Library, we have a long history of literacy program for English as an additional language for
Right.
newcomers. And of course, in recent years in Regina, we have seen this huge growth in newcomers.
Right.
So that kind of, we've had this foundation and that kind of programming for a very long time, and it's really come in handy as Regina has changed in recent years. We have, of course, arts programs. I think some of and this is something that certainly of interest to the Chamber, our business programs. We have a business
Yes.
services specialist who, recently, one of the things that in looking at our data for 2023, well, we do coaching for in the business environments.
Right.
We have coaches who help people develop business plans and work and do that resume work that they need to find a job. So in our follow-up, we find that those people in that program in 2023, ultimately, what we have is people with jobs earning $1.4 million a year as a
Really?
group. We have a program that we have that is entrepreneurial accelerators, which is specifically designed, and it's a great program, and great in that I would say it is also fully donor funded. We have a very generous donor who supported that program. That was open to 10 people who wanted to buy or open a business, and they went through a very intensive, lengthy program to develop the business plans, to learn the financial components, to learn the market, to understand how to evaluate a business. And those graduates actually are out there now some of them just in acquisition process of a business, and some of them still out looking for what's that right business for them. And that's specifically oriented toward people looking for a business that they can do to support themselves as a job for themselves and or their families, and not necessarily just as an investment. So it's that small business mentality coming, kind of hitting the streets right now from that program.
And it's interesting because most people wouldn't understand that service is available for free through
Yes.
the library, right?
Yes, and this one in particular, free for the users who did give a deposit that they got back as long as they finished the program.
Right.
But the actual cost of the program generously supported by a donor who gave $10,000 to the library.
Isn't that interesting? So you certainly accept donations, right?
We absolutely do. The Regina Public Library is a charitable organization, and we absolutely do accept donations.
Perfect. So I'm going to stay on that business piece for a second. So if I'm a budding young entrepreneur, the library is a good place to start, right?
It is, and as with most parts of the library, it's a great place to start if you want to just start on your own, if you want to just
Right.
come in and explore collections. Excuse me, you've mentioned online. We have, of course, a lot of online resources.
Right.
Take a look for yourself, see where you want to go. We have, of course, as libraries do, a reference service. You
Right.
can ask people to help you with those resources, try to find what you need. And of course, yes, specific programs, depending on what your need is, that you can drop in for free and learn a little bit more about the financial piece, or learn more about how do I write a business plan that I can give to my bank so that they can loan me money. So all of those pieces you can explore at your own pace, and you can go as far as you want at the library.
And I love that. You have the business environment, but you also have a cultural and arts area. So a budding young artist, if they're a musician, etc. I know you have the digital studio. Tell us about that, because I think it's a brilliant program.
Yeah, it has, excuse me, we started the digital media studio at Central Library
Right.
just before COVID. We now have a small sound studio at the Sherwood branch up in the
good.
northwest of the city. But it has just taken off. We've got the sound studio, the bigger one downtown, that is essentially 100% booked.
Wow.
And it is used for garage bands.
Right.
It is used for, we've had grandparents whose grandchildren live across the country, and they actually want to record a book for them and just send them something, a bedtime story.
That's great.
We've had elders come and record the language to preserve the language for their children and grandchildren. So the uses,
Yeah.
broad array of uses, and it's constantly booked. We also have the tech to support that, so we have
Right.
some fairly high-powered computers to help you work with those video and audio files that on a regular computer often kind of bog them down. So we have that at Central Library, and then we have a smaller installation at our Sherwood branch.
So it's been an incredibly successful program for you.
It has
Right.
been. It has
Yeah.
been, and yeah, even that the variety of things that people think to use it for that we didn't necessarily know at first.
At the beginning, yeah. Isn't that interesting? So, and of course you mentioned earlier the art gallery, the film theater. They're still very busy, correct?
They are.
Yeah.
They're going strong, I think, and the film theater has really focused on a lot more general film that is broader interest. We do have, of course, other film theaters in town now that are working in that arts and independent cinema area. So we do some of that, but we also do broader interest and, of course, family cinema. So there are regular family shows downtown that, of course, are free of charge.
Great. So I want to unpack a little bit about the Central Library, but before we do that, let's talk about the importance of the branches within this certain communities throughout the city.
Yeah, and branches are kind of interesting because they're that little microcosm of the pieces of the city in each branch, where you see each branch has its neighborhood or neighborhoods that it covers, and when you go into the branches, you see that they reflect those neighborhoods. And we have, the Prince of Wales. The Prince of Wales branch is a small branch, but it's very, very important for after-school activities and children coming after school. So it's got this focus within the community that isn't necessarily, it's not something we defined, it's something the community has defined. And
Yeah.
that's how they're using it. We have certainly up in the Northwest Sherwood a very diverse community that is using that library. We just did a bit of a refresh of the floor plan up there, but a very diverse community that's using that library in different ways, like the digital media studio and a new children's area. And each library is a reflection of the community that it's in, and it can be, yes, it's a system, so you can go into any library and request an item that's in another library. It will be brought to your branch. But it's part of the system, but it's a reflection of your neighborhood.
Yeah, and it speaks to your neighborhood.
It does.
So, and I want to jump on that word community, because the Central Library downtown, there's talk of it being renewed or rebuilt or a new facility, et cetera. But even the Catalyst committees, when they did their surveys, it came out as one of the top infrastructure pieces that Regina needs to do. Why is it important to the community?
The Central Library, in our context, and I think this has quite a lot to do with just how big Regina is. And Regina is this city that we know from our data is, yes, diverse in different parts of the city. We have a branch system that works with that. It's also, though, the size of city where people go to whatever branch they want to use.
Right.
So if we have a program at one branch across the city, we know from our data that people around the whole city, if they really are interested, they will drive there.
Right.
Or use transit. They'll go there and take advantage of that. So Central Library, in our evolution, Central Library has become, excuse me, the center of that entire system. It's a bit of a hub and spoke system. Central Library is the hub. So we have centralized services that fill the needs of all of those libraries. And it's also the place that has the largest collection. It has the most space, and although we are very tight on space, I would say right now, because we are the same size we were in 1962, but very tight on space, but it's the place where we know people can come, and as we look at developing library services in the city, that can be a place both that has that critical mass of multiple services that people can come down and do a number of things, and it has that critical mass of collections where if you're really interested, if you're looking for that business topic, chances are really good that if you peruse Central Library collection, that'll give you a good start because there's a broad enough selection of material there. And at the same time, yes, the place where there might be other activities in the branch that you can take advantage of at the same time. So Central Library is it's that support hub for the whole system, but it's also vital to making sure that in Regina we have this central service place for the community that, based on our information, we know the community will come.
Interesting that. So right now, you mentioned that you really don't have the space. What else is prompting the pursuit of a new central library?
It is certainly space, and in terms of the growth of the city over the years, and Regina is more than twice as big as it was when that branch was built, and for the population it was built for.
Right.
At the same time, we're also in a point where this building is showing signs of long-term wear that are not reversible.
Right.
So we do have a building that's 62 years old with a significant number of the major systems are original to the building. So in looking at, is this building, can it be rebuilt in terms of, stripped down and redone? Theoretically, yes. Ultimately, part of that challenge is that it's still then only 74,000 square feet.
Yeah, yeah.
and secondarily, that the cost of completely refurbishing a building is very much the same as the cost of building a new building.
So you can get.
So we can get a new library and actually have it fit the size that the city is, and also look into the future, because of course we look at, when we determine those sizes, we look at the future growth projections for the city.
Right.
And we can incorporate that into a new building.
These central libraries, and I certainly have been talking to you lots over the years, they become this community hub, right? And that's been seen in Halifax, Edmonton, Calgary, other places in Canada and throughout the world where the library becomes a bit of a driver for downtown. Do you see that in
It
Regina?
is. I see that as probably stronger in Regina than in some of those other cities. I think, because of that size factor that we have, that we know that people in Regina go to the different parts of the city where they want
Right.
to take advantage of something. So having that, it's a little bit, I would say, there's an efficiency to it in that we're the size of city where people will do that. So having a central library where we have enough size and mass to be able to offer multiple services to the whole city makes a lot of sense because we know people can travel that far. It's
Right.
actually fairly easy in Regina. So I think that catalyzing effect of the library, both in terms of being a hub for the city's library services, but also catalyzing in terms of the Catalyst Committee that you mentioned, and looking at the public library as a starting point to growth and strength downtown,
Yes.
because it can attract people, because there is that experience, as you say, across the country, across the continent, of a central library being a hub for a community and being able to catalyze growth around it, even if and when that part of the city, in this case downtown, is struggling. That
Right.
central library can be one of the first blocks that helps it grow and helps it get started.
And that's what you're speaking to the city about, correct? How are those negotiations going?
We're just in the conversation, but yeah, I think what we learned in March, we were looking back to the community in answer to one of the questions council asked us. We went back to the developer community to say, okay, so yes, we have a central library downtown. We have the library owns a piece of land that it's on. We can build a new library here. What else is out there? And is there interest in the community, in the developer community? Are there projects on the table? Are there projects people are thinking of where, excuse me, where a central library could fit as a part of a multi-partner, broader project that, yes, would catalyze growth downtown, be that place that starts the downtown rejuvenation. And so we're just in that conversation because the results of that were that, yes, developers are interested. The central library in a city like Regina, the central library is a significant anchor to drawing other business and other services, other organizations around it. So a multi-partner possibility for downtown where we can take the power of a central library and its catalyzing capabilities, but expand that by having multiple partners.
Right.
That just makes a great deal of sense. So the conversation with council, we're looking at getting that started and going through a process where we can say, okay, we know there's interest there. We know that developers are interested in the central library as an anchor to a bigger project. Let's take those next steps and find out what those projects are. Let's see what can fit a new central library and what can be the best fit for building a great downtown. Let's see what those are.
And that's a big piece of it because it's an upward spiral from there, right? I mean, you're saying it's the catalyst. It attracts other businesses, small businesses, other organizations to the downtown.
Yeah, and ultimately, a big part of that is by having that hub where people go. And so we, downtown at the Central Library, we have a little over 400,000 kind of people come through our doors through a year. Experience across the country when you've got the right kind of combination of services in a new central library in a downtown, you know that you can initially double that kind of count, but on a long-term sustained way, you can take that count and increase it by 50 to 75%.
Wow.
And keep a sustained foot traffic high. So if the library can do that by itself, what can all the rest of that do? And so as you pull all those partners in and you get that right mix, tremendous potential for the downtown.
And I know for a fact that you're absolutely dedicated to the cause, as is your board, and you must be excited about what it could be.
so excited.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's kind of, and sometimes it can seem like a long time. The number of times we've had the conversation.
Right.
The conversations we've been through, the work we've done, mostly really for the last 15 years. That works on our website. If someone is interested in going and reading all those hundreds of pages, it'd be great. But yeah, we've done a lot of work over the years to pull this together. And I think, as much as sometimes it seemed like there are frustrations along the way where
Yeah.
this didn't go the way you hoped, this didn't go the way you hoped. But at the same time, this whole conversation is further along than we have been before, and it's really encouraging.
That's fantastic. So this is the chamber chat, right?
Yes.
So we have hopefully businesses and entrepreneurs listening to this, but individuals that run businesses or are managing businesses. How can they help the library get to the point where they need to get to in terms of having that new central library as part of our downtown, as a catalyst for our downtown, as you said?
And I think and sometimes that link between business and a public library sometimes is a little bit tough to make. But
Right.
I think our experience here in Regina, when we talk to the business community is very supportive of of public library and the role we play in literacy and early literacy and
Right.
and essentially making the community a great place to live, but also being that place that prepares people ultimately through their lives to enter the workforce or to self-improve through use of public libraries. So I think that business and community link is maybe in the background, but
Yeah.
it's always been there, and we've heard that from our Regina business community. So I think as we moved out through this conversation, hearing support from the business community very directly about the public library and understanding how the public library is that hub that can catalyze growth downtown.
Right.
That we need a strong downtown. Quite aside from, and what's that concept of a strong downtown? Why does that matter? Well, if you've got a strong downtown, you're sending a message to everyone that you've got a strong city.
Right.
And ultimately, in a very practical side, what it also does is pull business and pull others. And I think we've talked about this for years, really in Regina, part of that equation is also getting people to live downtown and getting just this critical mass downtown that is, in a practical sense, creating places to live, creating infrastructure, ultimately creating tax revenue that supports the whole city, but is building a great place to live.
That's well said. I mean, and honestly, the library is an important component of that, I should say, right? And
I would sure say
yeah,
so.
absolutely. And honestly, congrats on the work you've done so far. I'm a big fan of yours. You're my favorite guy from Holdfast.
I only went to school at it.
Yeah, fair enough. But continue that good work and congratulations on everything you've done thus far.
Thank you.
All the best. Thanks for joining
Thanks.
us.
Chamber Chats is produced bi-weekly by Skycron as a service to the Regina business community. We produce many series, including the television series Go Nitro for NBC Sports, CBS, and Fox, as well as corporate videos, events, and live streams, all right here in Saskatchewan. We can do the same for you. If you have a video project for your organization, call us at 306-720-0097. And let's get started on your next project.